A nurse has been convicted of murdering babies.
Just beyond your imagination that somebody's on a ward killing babies. It's unbelievable.
So what turned Lucy Letby into a serial killer?
She's a difficult one to work out because she's emotionless. There was no empathy or sympathy with what's gone on at all.
For the first time, we hear from the parents whose baby was murdered.
I think she's a hateful human being. She's taken everything from us. Absolutely everything.
The doctor who tried to raise the alarm.
It was quite clear that they didn't think it appropriate to go to the police at that stage.
And the friend who stood by her.
She would only ever want to help people. To say that she could have harmed any baby, it's just not in her nature.
We reveal how hospital bosses protected Lucy Letby.
The reputation of the organisation and protecting that reputation was a big factor in how people responded to the concerns raised.
And how it was the doctors who stopped the murders.
It's unprecedented. It's something which you would never believe could be possible. The potential that there could be a serial killer in the local hospital.
Tonight, the untold story of Britain's most unlikely serial killer.
We were actually told we would never have our own children. And found out I was pregnant, and then we found out we were having twins on Valentine's Day.
Wow.
Which was lovely.
Can you remember when you first saw them?
It was just like a sheer elation and happiness. I've never felt that before or since.
You remember feeling like a new dad?
Yeah, I was very proud.
The twins were born 10 weeks early. They were being cared for at the neonatal unit of the Countess of Chester Hospital. Only 5 days old, one of the boys suddenly became unwell.
In the corridor, I could immediately hear crying. Well, it felt more than crying. I walked into the room, seen it was my boy. He had blood around his mouth. And Lucy was there. But faffing about, not doing anything. You know when it feels like somebody wants to look busy but they're not actually doing anything? The crying, I've never heard anything like it since. It was screaming, and I was like, what's the matter with him? Lucy said, oh, don't worry, she has this really calm demeanour about her, and she's, very, very softly spoken. And don't worry, the registrar was coming. She'd already contacted him, he was on his way, and she told me to go back to the ward.
I was trying to reassure my wife that, listen, these people are experts, and if they say there's not a problem, you've got nothing to worry about. And that was the first phone call. Quickly followed up by a second phone call with a midwife saying, you need to get here now. And there was a third phone call telling me, where are you? The priest has been called. And I just knew, I knew at that point, you know, you don't call a priest unless someone's dying.
We were taken in and we were told to talk to him and held his hand. And then he was christened. The conversation with the consultant, and she said, we're going to stop. It's no good. You know, we've been working on him, and it's not helping. We want him to die in your arms rather than being worked on. So we said, okay. And they passed him to us, and he died.
Doctors put the death down to a bowel condition and the premature birth. It wasn't considered suspicious, so there was no post-mortem examination. After your son had died, what was Lucy Letby doing?
She asked if I would like her to bath him in front of me, so I said yeah. So she bathed him. And then she dressed him in a little woolen gown and gave him back to us, and we held him for a little bit longer.
There had previously been 2 or 3 deaths a year at the neonatal unit. But something unusual was happening in 2015. The baby's death in August was the 4th that summer. Another 3 babies had already died in June.
A review of the care of all 3 babies was done, and there was nothing in common that we could pin this 3 deaths on, but the staffing analysis did identify that Lucy Letby was on shift for those 3 episodes.
And did that worry you?
Well, I think I can remember saying, oh no, it can't be Lucy, not nice Lucy.
The trial of a nurse who's accused of murdering 7 babies and attempting to kill 10 others at a hospital in Chester has heard how a pattern had emerged of babies dying or suffering collapses when she was on duty.
Hi, can I just talk through what we're doing this morning? So the one are interested in...
Lucy Letby has been on trial at Manchester Crown Court since last October, accused of killing and harming babies. I've been covering the 33-year-old's case from the start.
The only thing that might be a bit of a crunch, sort of depends how long the evidence goes on for, is for me to turn around the radio 1300 at the same time as the TV1. This is my office for the day. Outside the court, Lucy Letby will be a few metres away on the other side of that wall, inside, being taken from prison van. The stakes in this case couldn't be more extreme at both ends of the scale, so if she's convicted, Lucy Letby becomes Britain's most prolific child killer. If she is acquitted, then I don't know what's happened here. You know, this has been a very, very long prosecution, involving many years of investigative work, and there's a nurse at the middle of it who will have been found to have done nothing wrong.
We're talking about vulnerable babies in a hospital, no less. It's unprecedented. It's something which you you would never believe could be possible. The potential that there could be a serial killer in the local hospital.
A judge has ordered the babies and their families cannot be identified. But the parents have given statements in court.
I was never given the impression that our daughter's condition was life-threatening, and it didn't even cross my mind that she was in danger of dying.
We were just standing there looking as our daughter was dying. Someone was holding a phone to the doctor's ear. Then a doctor told them to stop.
The post-mortem results from the time are interesting. One of them identifies the cause of death as damage to the heart. Another one talks about pneumonia with acute lung injury. And one simply says cause of death unascertained. None of them talk about harm or murder.
I don't recall the first time that I met Lucy Letby. She started work in 2012. She didn't strike me as too different to most nurses on the unit.
You didn't have any worries about her doing the job?
I don't think anybody did. It's something that nobody really wants to consider, that a member of staff might be harming the babies under your care.
Lucy, she was respectful. Lucy was always very softly spoken, and she seemed quite timid. And that was her whole demeanour.
First name terms, you're calling her Lucy?
Absolutely. She told me about her life. We told her about our life. She told me that she was single, and she was quite happy being single, and just general chit chat and things like that.
After each of the deaths, Lucy Letby sent texts to colleagues.
We lost a little one overnight. Very unexpected and sad. How do such sick babies get through and others just die so suddenly and unexpectedly? I think there's an element of fate involved. There's a reason for everything. Work has been awful. I can't talk about it now. I can't stop crying. I just need to get it out my system.
In October 2015, a fifth baby died unexpectedly on the unit. Her mother also gave a statement to the court.
Lucy Letby and another nurse asked me if I wanted to bathe my baby. While we were bathing her, Lucy came back in. She was smiling and kept going on about how she was present at the first bath and how our daughter had loved it. I wish she would just stop talking.
A few weeks later, the parents received a sympathy card. Thinking of you today and always. Sorry I cannot be there to say goodbye. Lots of love, Lucy. Doctors couldn't find a medical connection between the deaths. But in all 5 cases, Lucy Letby was on duty.
It was the first time I started to have some concerns about the unusual nature of the collapses and the deaths. I emailed the unit manager after this death in October and asked to discuss Lucy Letby and her association with the deaths.
We've obtained previously unseen hospital documents, including the response from the unit manager. She says it is unfortunate that Lucy Letby was on duty. However, each cause of death was different, and some were poorly prior to their arrival on the unit. What do you read from that?
She was intimating that the fact that Lucy Letby was present each time was an unfortunate coincidence. She couldn't make that jump to even consider that somebody on her unit was harming babies intentionally.
A nurse accused of multiple baby murders at the Countess at Chester Hospital was seen crying as she said, "It's always me when it happens."
In Manchester, Lucy Letby's trial has been going on for 3 months.
This is the neonatal unit. How long have I got to script over that opening?
Well, I've got the sort of door shots.
I've been here most days.
This is the neonatal unit at the Countess of Chester Hospital, where Lucy Letby worked. It's an odd feeling in the courtroom. You know, you've got the parents of each baby sitting listening to this very harrowing evidence. And just a few yards away behind the glass of the dock, Lucy Letby's sitting, listening. She's generally passive, no real expression. It's really hard to try and read Lucy Letby, to tell what she's thinking. I'm finding that very hard.
That courtroom, as you will know, it's such a highly emotional and charged place to be in and sit in. I feel this whole situation that I think she's feeding off it. I think she feeds off other people's pain.
Do you ever look across at her and think it's possible she didn't do it?
No. No.
I can't get over the impression of Lucy Letby that you get looking at these social media photos. It's sparky, full of fun, popular. She looks like the life and soul of the party in these pictures. This is... I don't know what Britain's most prolific child killer should look like. I'm pretty sure it's not this, though.
This here is Ayleston School, where I first met Lucy and where we became friends.
Dawn has known Lucy Letby since secondary school. She's agreed to talk about her friend for the first time.
We'd come down, walk into town, have meals along this strip and hang out on the Cathedral Green.
Just here?
Yeah. Hereford is definitely very much home for her. Lucy, you know, has such strong ties to her family here.
Did Lucy always know she wanted to do nursing?
Yeah. It was the only career that I ever remember her saying that she wanted to go and do. She had had a difficult birth herself, and she was very grateful for being alive to the nurses that would have helped save her life. So I feel like everything that she did was geared towards that ultimate goal of becoming a nurse. Outside of our group, she would present as more shy, reserved, serious, you know, level-headed. But inside the safety of our group, she sort of lets her hair down a bit more and is goofy and makes us all laugh. Very bubbly, loves a cocktail, you know, just the fun of getting dressed up and going out with your friends.
After school, Lucy Letby studied nursing in Chester and went on to work in the city.
She bought a house, adopted cats, rescue cats, which were her whole world, and went out salsa dancing. She was doing the job that she loved and the job that she's always wanted to do.
Given that, can you think of the possibility that she harmed babies?
It is the most out of character accusation that you could ever put against Lucy. Think of your most kind, gentle, soft friend, and think that they're being accused of harming babies. She is the kindest person that I've ever known. She would only ever want to help people. To say that she could have harmed any baby, it's just not in her nature.
The former nurse Beverly Allett has been found guilty of murdering 4 children who were in her care.
Lucy Letby isn't the first healthcare worker accused of being a serial killer.
Today, Dr. Harold Frederick Shipman was convicted of murdering 15 of his patients.
You know, at the end of the day, I've worked with so many serial killers in my career, and all of them quite liked having the power to be able to decide who would live and who would die, because of course that's the ultimate power for God.
Does Lucy Letby fit the profile of what you'd say is a healthcare serial killer?
No, she doesn't. She is very social. She's very socialized. She has friendship groups. She has people in the hospital who befriended her, mentored her. She is somebody that's seen not suspiciously. There's no evidence that she's fascinated by serial killers. I read the prosecution's opening account of the evidence and I thought, is that it? And I say that because I kept thinking there would be more. Clearly it's circumstantial, and often murder cases are often solved by circumstantial evidence, but there was no smoking gun in the Letby case.
It wasn't just the 5 unexpected deaths that were creating suspicion. Another 5 babies almost died on the unit in unusual circumstances over the same period. Lucy Letby was present each time. Then, in February 2016, a consultant says he saw her standing and watching when a baby seemed to have stopped breathing.
Dr. Ravi Jayaram got up from the nursing station and walked in and saw that Lucy Letby was there, and Lucy Letby was not doing anything, and the baby who was there at Lucy Letby at the cot side, the baby was desaturating. He asked Lucy Letby what was going on, and Lucy Letby then said, "Oh, he's just started declining now."
The baby survived the incident. There were 7 consultant paediatricians working on the unit. All of them now thought something was badly wrong. This is the first time the lead consultant has spoken publicly about their concerns.
Some of the babies didn't respond to resuscitation quite how we would have expected them to. Most babies, you'd get a heart rate back and the breathing would get better. But that didn't happen in these cases like you'd expect, which was unusual.
A hospital boss who took over after the baby deaths has also agreed to talk. She's now suing the hospital for constructive dismissal.
I had described to me a horrifying realization on part of the paediatricians. One of them said, every time this is happening to me, that I'm being called in for these catastrophic events which were unexpected and unexplained, Lucy Letby is there. And then somebody else said, yes, I found that. And they all realised that the common factor for each of them was Letby's presence on the unit.
Dr. Breary emailed the unit manager again in March 2016, saying we still need to talk about Lucy. He'd also asked for an urgent meeting with hospital bosses. It was 3 months before that meeting took place. So you'd asked for an urgent meeting?
That's correct, yes. It was quite surreal because we had these concerns, and as a group our concerns were rising, and there's no communication from senior managers in the trust.
I wasn't there. I can't really comment on those events other than to say if that had been raised with me, I would have met with them within 24 hours.
Between March and June 2016, another 3 babies almost died unexpectedly whilst Lucy Letby was working. Then, towards the end of June, she was helping to care for 2-day-old triplets. One boy died around 6 p.m. Less than 24 hours later, his brother was dead too. To be clear, these babies, the triplet babies, were in very good health. Consecutive days. Can you remember what went through your mind on those 2 days?
Slight disbelief, really, that it could be happening, and a little bit of anger and confusion, and a feeling of we really need to do something about this.
I know how distressed the consultants were by this point. It was a stark illustration of the desperation of staff who were trying to understand why these events were happening on the unit.
After the death of the second triplet, a meeting was held for staff.
Lucy Letby was there, she was sitting next to me. And I spoke to her towards the end of the meeting and said how tired and upset she must be after 2 days of this, and hoped that she was going to have a restful weekend. And she turned to me and said, no, I'm back on shift tomorrow, which struck me as being incredible, really. The other staff were very traumatised by all of this crumbling before your eyes almost, and she was quite happy and confident to come into work on Saturday.
That night, Dr. Breary called a senior hospital manager. He asked her to stop Lucy Letby working. The manager refused.
I challenged her. I said, well, are you saying that you're making this decision against the wishes of 7 consultant paediatricians? And she said yes. And I said, well, if you're making this decision, are you taking responsibility for anything that might happen tomorrow to any other of our babies? And she said yes. And the phone call stopped shortly afterwards.
The following day, another baby almost died while Lucy Letby was on duty. She was finally removed from the neonatal unit 3 weeks later. The suspicious incidents stopped.
The doctor has told a court that he felt extremely uncomfortable at the thought of the nurse Lucy Letby being alone with a baby girl.
Yes, and today we had evidence not just about Lucy Letby herself, but also the way in which the Countess of Chester Hospital is said to have dealt with doctors' concerns.
At the trial in Manchester, one of the 7 consultants has criticised the hospital in court.
What today's shown in my mind is that there's no good outcome for the hospital here. This consultant, Ravi Jairam, saying he wished he'd just gone straight to the police. and hadn't towed the party line. That's really stark. What we heard today really laid out the case beyond just Lucy Letby, but the wider picture of what was going on at that hospital.
I think the hospital senior management will have some serious questions to answer no matter how everything unfolds as a result of this trial. Either we have, someone who's causing deliberate harm on the neonatal unit and concerns were raised and they were not followed up on by senior management, or we have a case where the mortality rate at the neonatal unit was far higher than it should have been, unacceptably high, and not enough was done to mitigate against that.
From the summer of 2016, Lucy Letby was moved to administrative duties. But there was still no formal investigation into why so many babies had died or come close to death. The internal documents we've obtained reveal one consultant asked for the police to be called in. A hospital manager replied, "Action is being taken and ordered. All emails cease forthwith." But the police weren't called.
We had a number of meetings with senior management. It was quite clear that they weren't going to budge, and they didn't think it appropriate to go to the police at that stage.
Instead, the hospital asked the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health to look at what had been going on in the unit. In November, the college called for the hospital to conduct a thorough, external, independent review of each unexpected neonatal death. But the deaths weren't investigated fully. Is this a cover-up?
I don't know how you define a cover-up, but to us the evidence in front of us was quite clear. It felt like they were trying to engineer some sort of narrative or way out of this that didn't involve going to the police. If you want to call that a cover-up, then that's a cover-up.
There were deaths and near deaths which could not be explained and were unexpected, and that just does not happen on a neonatal unit. But unfortunately, there was a concern about how it would look. So the reputation of the organisation and protecting that reputation was a big factor in how people responded to the concerns raised.
Hospital managers went out of their way to protect Lucy Letby. We've discovered they upheld a grievance she'd brought against the consultants for getting her removed from the unit.
Tony Chambers, the chief executive, said that we were to apologise to Lucy Letby and that a line had been drawn and that we were not to cross that line, and if we were to cross the line there would be consequences.
This document hasn't been made public before either. It's a written apology the consultants were forced to send to Lucy Letby. It says, "We would like to apologise for any inappropriate comments. We are very sorry for the stress and upset that you have experienced in the last year." 2 consultants were even ordered to attend mediation sessions to make the peace with Lucy Letby. The doctors didn't back down. 2 months after the apology, the hospital asked the police to investigate, but only after the consultants pushed them.
To their huge credit, they made the collective decision that they would stay and see this through. And I am full of admiration for that courage. So even after the meeting, when they were told that we'll draw a line under this or there'll be consequences, they still persisted in saying yes, but we still have questions that haven't been answered, and we still feel that the police are the right people to discuss this with.
Do you think it's the case that if you hadn't persisted, there would never have been a police investigation?
I'm sure, yeah. That was the intention of the executives, was to somehow close this case.
Tony Chambers later resigned as chief executive. He told us what he said to the consultants had been taken out of context, and that prompt action was taken after he was first told of serious concerns in June 2016, including reviews of deaths. He said all his thoughts are with children at the heart of this case and their families. He's truly sorry for what all the families have gone through, and that he'd cooperate fully with any post-trial inquiry. 3 weeks after being told about the baby deaths, Cheshire Police launched an investigation in May 2017. Operation Hummingbird.
It's really hard to believe that anybody would be harming tiny babies, and that was the general feeling at that point. And it wasn't until we got further on in the investigation where we'd established that a crime had occurred that really the size of this investigation and what we were about to embark on really kind of hit home for people.
One case convinced the police there was a killer in the hospital. It involved the family with twins whose son died back in August 2015. 24 hours later, his twin brother also became very unwell.
One of the nurses had come and knocked on our door and said, you know, he's not well. His heart rate is really, really high.
What's your first thought?
It's happening again. Thought it was happening again. And I said to the husband, please not again. We can't do this again. This can't be happening. It's almost bang on 24 hours since our other son had died. This just can't be happening. And so I went and I sat with him all night. His heart rate was absolutely through the roof, you know. It didn't come down, and I was just like, just come down, you know, and I'm almost trying to will the machine, you know, bring his heart rate down, make it okay.
This time, the medics managed to save her baby, but the parents say he was badly harmed by the trauma.
He's got severe learning difficulties. He's got a lot of complex needs.
Is it your belief that that's connected
Yes.
to what happened?
Yes.
Directly as a consequence?
There's a consequence, and he's living with it.
In early 2018, Dr. Breary was reviewing the baby's notes for the police. He found evidence the infant had been poisoned. A blood test showed the baby had high levels of insulin. It had been missed by a junior doctor.
It was the first sight I had of this result, and it made me feel sick, actually, thinking about it. There was a baby case in front of me in which it was quite clear that this baby had been poisoned by insulin. And the nursing record supported the fact that Lucy Letby was present on shift at the time.
The body produces insulin naturally. When it does, it also produces a substance called C-peptide. Most medical experts agree. If there's hardly any C-peptide, then the insulin cannot be natural.
if you measure very high levels of insulin with very low levels of C-peptide, then it could only be the case that the insulin was not made by the body. So that would be objective evidence that there has been, that somehow insulin has been administered to this baby. It wasn't produced by the baby.
And it can't have happened accidentally.
No, this would not happen accidentally.
The review of patient records suggested a second baby had also been poisoned with insulin. The crucial evidence had been missed for more than 2 years. It looked like a baby killer had been left on the unit.
Was this a significant missed opportunity, that when those lab results weren't really flagged at the time? Do you think that was a missed opportunity?
Yes, yes. In an ideal world, you'd hope that the lab would flag it so it would be reviewed by somebody senior. That didn't happen.
It's been said there's no smoking gun in the Lucy Letby trial, but these insulin cases get close to it, do they, for you?
They were a smoking gun for these babies, for sure, and I don't have any doubt that Lucy Letby harmed these babies.
The insulin cases were a real milestone in the investigation. We were shocked, really to the core, to find that a baby had been injected with insulin. It's another layer of surprise, I suppose, as to the depths that Lucy Letby went to.
The other cases were less straightforward, but evidence from medical experts indicated all the babies had been harmed intentionally.
In a couple of the cases, the prosecution say this is by poisoning with insulin. In a couple of the cases, it's by force-feeding these children milk. In several of these cases, it's through injecting the child with air bubbles that can cause great harm to even adults, but to vulnerable babies, it's a life-threatening situation for them.
Evidence suggests there was a killer on the unit. But how do we know it was Lucy Letby? This prosecution document shows which nurses were on duty when babies collapsed or died. Some were only present on 1 or 2 shifts. Some were there on 6 or 7. But Lucy Letby was always there. She was working on the unit during every single one of the 25 suspicious incidents.
Hello, Lucy, is it?
Yes.
Hello, my name's Chester, please. Look, it's Stefan, 2 seconds.
Oh, yes?
Yeah, thank you.
In 2018, Lucy Letby was arrested for the first time.
We've got something with it. It was just like knee surgery. Oh, right, okay.
We woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning to our phone, and it was the family liaison telling us they'd arrested somebody on suspicion of murder, a healthcare worker. And he came and he had a conversation, and he said to add Lucy Letby. Absolute shock. I'd almost, in my own mind, been like, oh, it's someone we don't know, and it's someone in the background who's done this awful thing. Never in a million years did I think it'd be someone that we felt we had a connection with.
The shock of that?
Shock of that was just unreal. Unreal.
Lucy Letby is clearly the person who keeps things. She kept, obviously, medical records, she kept handover sheets, she kept electronic devices and photographs, so she kept diaries, very detailed diaries and notes, which surprised me, because Lucy Letby would have been aware that we were going to come and speak to her at some point.
The police found Lucy Letby had been searching for information online about the parents of some of the dead babies. In one case, on the anniversary of their baby's death. They also discovered a note inside her diary. It says, "I haven't done anything wrong." But it also says, "I killed them."
So you see, it says, I killed them. I'm not good enough. I'm evil. I did this.
Well, it seems like a confession, but it might be she's saying that it is alleged I killed them. It is alleged I am evil. I did this. Do you know, I worked on a number of murder cases whereby you get people writing strange notes all the time. That's evidence of there perhaps being underlying stress, mental health problems. It's not necessarily evidence of guilt. I just think this is the ramblings of somebody who's under extreme psychological pressure.
There may be strong circumstantial evidence against her, but neither the police nor the prosecution have offered a motive, and no one has ever seen Lucy Letby harming a child.
Lucy was arrested and released on bail, and then she was arrested again. And at that point, I think the police had spent 3 years trying to build a case to find someone culpable, to find someone to blame.
Did you question at that point if it could be something she was capable of?
Of course, it goes through your mind for an instant where you think, what do the police know that I don't know? But in that instant, it's gone in a second because it's replaced by, I know Lucy, I've grown up with Lucy.
You've spent time interviewing her. What do you make of her?
She's a difficult one to work out because she's emotionless. She was just very clinical in her answers, so she was comfortable, she'd go through medical notes, she would talk to us, she was cooperative, she engaged, but there was no empathy or sympathy with what's gone on at all.
They told me that during the test, I think that just sort of was there. Did you have any concerns that there was a rise in the mortality rate? Yes. Okay, so tell me about that. What concerns did you have? I think we don't just noticed as a team in general, the nursing staff, that this was a rise compared to previous years.
A nurse accused of murdering 7 babies has been giving evidence at her trial.
Morning. Busy day. I've got quite a few calls to make.
In Manchester, the defence case has started, and Lucy Letby is giving evidence.
There was complete silence in court as Lucy Letby spoke in a clear voice, looking directly at the jury and sitting just yards away from the parents of some of the babies she's accused of attacking. This is the day I've been waiting for months, because we've had all of these accusations laid out in court, and today is the moment where we get to see her and hear her directly. You know, she's going through the detail of the medical notes, and she's being asked about that quite closely, and she's dealing with those questions in a very assured way. She comes across as a bit mousy, a bit normal. You can't possibly marry that with the enormity of what she's being accused of.
Lucy Letby says she was always on duty as she was willing to do extra shifts and was trained to care for the sickest babies, and that staff shortages and poor maintenance had left the unit unsafe. But after 7 days in the witness box, the pressure is starting to show.
I think she's starting to crack. Pressure's getting to her. We had a break this morning. We weren't supposed to have another one until lunchtime. And then she asked for one. She said, I need a break. And you can tell that she's getting stressed.
From the start, she's told her friends not to attend court.
We've been in contact through writing letters, but she's not been able to have any updates about all of her godchildren because she's not allowed to be told about any information pertaining to children.
Have all of Lucy's friends stood by her?
Yes. We know she couldn't have done anything that she's accused of, so without a doubt we stand by her. I've grown up with Lucy, and not a single thing that I've ever seen or witnessed of Lucy would, let me for a moment believe that she was capable of the things she was being accused of.
You seem utterly unshakable on this, but isn't it possible she's fooled you all?
Unless Lucy turned around and said, I'm guilty, I will never believe that she's guilty.
Have you ever thought that there could be some other explanation for all of this, and that Lucy Letby is innocent?
Well, that was the journey we went on in the first year before we finally asked her to be removed from the neonatal unit. That was a year of looking for all those alternative explanations, and we excluded all those things until we got down to one point, which was Lucy Letby.
I want her to be locked up, and I never want her to come out again. Because what she's done has changed the course of our life forever. I think she's a hateful human being. She's taken everything from us. Absolutely everything.
Jurors in the murder trial of Hereford nurse Lucy Letby have retired to consider their verdicts. Ms Letby denies murdering 7 babies and attempting to kill 10 others.
You can feel the tension here every day. No one knows if this will be the day when the jury returns its verdict.
The trial has been running for 10 months. It's 5.5 weeks since the jury was sent out. Now they've reached their verdict.
She's guilty. The jury's found Lucy Letby guilty of murdering 7 babies and attempting to murder another 6. They found her not guilty of 2 attempted murder charges and were undecided on another 6 of those, but they clearly found that she's one of Britain's most notorious killers.
I cannot begin to imagine how the families in this case feel today. I just hope that today's verdicts bring all of them some peace of mind for the future, and that we have answered some of the questions that they were looking for.
And there's a statement from the hospital.
I speak for the whole trust when I say how deeply saddened and appalled we are at Lucy Letby's crimes. We are extremely sorry that these crimes were committed at our hospital, and our thoughts continue to be with all the families and loved ones of the babies who came to harm or who died. We cannot begin to understand what they have been through.
The jury was only asked to consider 7 murder charges. We've discovered that 13 babies died during Lucy Letby's last year on the neonatal unit. She was on duty for every one of them. The police investigation is going wider still. 2 babies died while Lucy Letby was training at Liverpool Women's Hospital. Are you looking at other cases?
Yes, I'm sure the public would expect us to look at the entire footprint of Lucy Letby's career, all the way through Lucy's placements at Chester and at the Liverpool Women's Hospital.
And could that result in further charges down the line?
Possibly. We have informed a number of parents already that we're investigating their child and they're being supported.
The Countess of Chester Hospital is under new management. The unit no longer cares for such sick babies, and there's only been 1 death in 7 years.
Can expectant mothers coming into the unit have confidence?
I think those parents can expect as high a level of care on our unit than any other unit in the country.
It's upsetting this.
We've got through a particularly hard time, and I think we owe it to the families for them to know that the staff care.
Lucy Letby now faces years in prison for harming babies in her care. But why did she do it? What turned a likeable, fun-loving nurse into a serial killer?
I don't think we know why Lucy Letby has done this, and that's really difficult to take. I can't imagine how a parent must feel.
It's just beyond your imagination that somebody's on a ward killing babies. It's unbelievable.
She had everything going for her, and then starts killing babies. It's just what happened. I think it's something that we'll never know, and I think as a family we need to make our peace with that.